Hello, good morning. I'm Chris Packham and we're at the University of Lincoln this morning, and we're welcoming a group of people that you can't see because they're behind the camera, and we're going to be talking about mammals to start with. Alex, over to you, because we're going to start with hedgehogs, and you've got this fine device here, basic but a very useful tool.
Yes, so my name's Alex Johnson. I'm the University of Lincoln Hedgehog Friendly Campus Lead, and we've got some mammal survey tunnels here today. So we've just been looking at this survey tunnel, again very basic, just a triangular shape so you can see all the way through. And the way that this works is that we have the tunnel here, and then we usually have a fully formed plate that goes in the middle. And as you can see, this one's had a little bit of fun overnight. So what we do when we put these out, we've got some Hedgehog Friendly ink, which is just charcoal, food grade charcoal and vegetable oil, which we put in the middle. And we put some bait down in the middle, which is usually just cat biscuits, because that's what's safe for hedgehogs and other wildlife around here. And then we put that out and we leave it. We usually do it for 5 days. So we've come out this morning and found total destruction.
Well, I quite like a little bit of, well, this type of total destruction.
Yeah,
because it's given us evidence of another mammal, not just the hedgehog.
Yeah, so what do you think it is, Chris?
Well, the first thing I do is look at the amount of damage and say that if this were the work of a badger, it would be ripped to pieces. So I think this is lighter gauge damage, which suggests fox. But the other thing you can do is you can use your nose, of course, because foxes have a very characteristic smell. There's none of it deposited on here, but typically if they do find something, particularly food, and they don't eat it all, they will bury it and then they will scent mark it. So using the nose is a really important part of a naturalist's skill. The trouble is your ink smells quite strong.
I know, my ink smells like charcoal, doesn't it? I'm not going to get it too close, I've already had charcoal on my nose.
But no, I think a fox has been pouring that around, not to get at the hedgehog we all but to get at the hedgehog food. Let's hope the hog's got it before the fox did.
Well, it does look like the hedgehog got it before. So we've got some really beautiful prints actually from hedgehogs, so we've got well travelled. We've got quite a few in this area, that's mainly because of the fact that we've left some areas to go a bit longer. But you can also see, Chris has got this one, you've got the spine prints as well, which is just beautiful.
Yes, brushing on there.
Yeah, just brushing on, just going through. So this is one very dirty hedgehog now. Just wandering around everywhere.
But yeah, so I mean the point is this is a presence and absence sort of survey, so you can immediately identify which mammals that you have visiting, because the footprints here, I mean these are very clearly hedgehog, but you'd be trying to discriminate those from brown rat. Where we put them overnight is alongside a pool, and brown rats have an affinity for water, so you might expect rats here as well. You get a tail drag for brown rat as well. So this is the sort of thing that people could really easily do in their back gardens.
Absolutely, yeah.
Get yourself a drain pipe or make yourself a tube like this. That's not at all sophisticated.
Nope.
You can make the ink in the kitchen.
Yeah, absolutely. Food, as long as it's food grade charcoal and you regular vegetable oil, you just want to make a paste about the same thickness as double cream. And then obviously wear gloves, because that's what we're going to be doing in a minute. We're going to ask for some volunteers to come and put some together, and then they're going to choose where to put them. If you are looking for presence of something like a hedgehog, you'd want to be put it against the edge of a wall or a hedge. That's purely because that's where they tend to roam. Hedgehog. Yeah. Hog in their hedge.
And you'll find out what you've got maybe for your garden.
Yeah.
In terms of identifying the footprints or
Something's making a noise.
Extraordinary noise. However, in terms of identifying the footprints, online there's got a number of resources there. Sometimes they're quite smudgy and quite difficult, so this is the sort of thing that you want to repeat until you get a very clear set of prints like this. And also, as Alex has said, context is really important. It's highly unlikely that you'll get a pine marten here in the middle of Lincoln. Not impossible, nothing in the natural world is ever impossible. You might get ferrets. There's always ferrets escaping from captivity, and they roam around a bit as well. And then you've got voles and mice, and in some parts, depending on the nature and location of your garden, you may get their predators as well, things like stoats and weasels. So all of these things will turn up. It may take several attempts at detective work to determine which one is which. Or you can also invest in one of those little track cameras.
We've got a couple actually on site today. Yeah. So excellent. We've put out a couple, and so we've got one just down the side of there and one there. And I've taken out. I've got some little shots of what we found as well.
Excellent.
So we've got definite foxes.
Yeah, and they're not expensive any longer. For £100 or so, Christmas present, birthday present, isn't it? You can get those, and they develop quite high quality imagery, obviously in daylight and with infrared at night as well. So they're great for getting, I find, lots and lots and lots of images of next door's cat.
Yeah, so many.
But all of those other things. And then if you do find something specific, or if you have a feeding station that you've set up specifically for mammals, you can put the camera on it, and it gives you a way of, then you can begin to know them as individuals. Foxes, for instance, have facial markings, which are very distinct. So I had a group of 7 foxes, and you may think, oh, you never tell 7 foxes apart, but with a little bit of work on the laptop, looking at all of the video that you've collected, you can see size, sex, shape, and those distinctive features on their muzzle give you the capacity to know them as individuals, and then you can follow what their population's doing, and you can advance your study a bit more. Anyway, Alex, before we move on, tell us a bit about the hedgehogs on the campus, because a lot of people might be surprised to think that you've got these animals. A species that's declined by 97% since the 1950s, but you've got them here in the centre of Lincoln.
So it's quite unusual, really. A lot of people think that if you're in the middle of the city centre, you're not going to get wildlife. Urban wildlife is massive, particularly hedgehogs. We've got a huge amount on campus. We've got about 11 at last sort of count. We have a security guard who goes out and documents them for us as well, who's wonderful, called Les. So he pops out and sees them, and he gives us updates. He's even done a family tree of level of which ones that he's got. Yeah.
And so have you been tagging them then?
No, we don't tag them because you obviously have to have a license to do so. We tend to do it through documentation, camera traps, through photos, videos, through stuff like the survey tunnels as well. We will do as well wildlife walks and nighttime walks as well, so we'll occasionally come out, and we've had students come out and do just watching, seeing, counting what we've got on site. But they've declined about by 30% in urban areas, and it's 50% in countryside, and we've got quite a lot more here than I ever anticipated. It's quite unusual that when you go out, you put them out and you definitely get prints like this straight away. I kind of knew that we'd seen them around this area. So if you were doing a scientific survey definitively, you obviously wouldn't put them somewhere where you already knew something was, because you're obviously then making no sense of that, unless you just want to see the fact that, you've got hedgehogs here. I think they quite like it here because of the variety of wildlife. We've got a lot of different types of grasses, lots of different insects. We have created habitats, which is just log piles, long grasses, planted brambles, those kind of things, to encourage them on campus as well. And they're dedicated in areas that we know that we've seen hedgehogs, so we've got a couple of little garden areas for those. And if you walk around later, you'll see that there's a little habitat sign saying that we've seen hedgehogs on campus, and that's just a bit of education as well. But yeah, we do have quite a lot of them, and they're such an unusual mammal, aren't they?
They are an unusual mammal. They're modified hairs which have turned into spines. You've got about 5,000 spines. And they constantly shed those throughout your life. Must have never picked one up.
Oh no, I wouldn't.
Decompose quite quickly, the spines. You don't tend to see them lying around. But of course, that offers them protection from quite a large number of predators. Foxes obviously can't get into them. Badgers can, if they're really determined, but they need to be determined, so they won't attack a hedgehog if other food is available to them. Hedgehogs, in return, of course, have the capacity to predate things that other things can't. They're renowned for eating venomous snakes, adders.
Yes.
But again, they wouldn't actively seek them out. If they came across one and they were really hungry, then they might take the trouble to kill and eat an adder. Their normal diet is invertebrates. Famed for eating lots of slugs and snails, but it's more beetles and other...
They love beetles. Yeah. They love beetles. I think the one thing I was saying about the fact that I can identify hedgehog poo, which is always a great skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if you come across a little bit of shiny poo, that's generally black, shiny poo is generally beetly.
I should have brought some with me. I've got some in my collection.
You might be able to find some around.
Nice. Add to it. So yeah, it's not about that long. And obviously the diameter of poo is really important, because you've got to think about the diameter of the animal that's produced it. And just do a bit of simple maths and use your imagination. So hedgehog poo is about 5 to 6 millimetres in diameter, normally black. Sometimes there's a little twist in the tail, which I really like. A little bit of flourish as they squeeze the last bit out, which is really a treat. But if you've got that on your lawn, it's again the ability to detect a nocturnal animal that you may not see, but you can find traces of.
I think as well it's worth saying that if you're seeing a hedgehog in the daytime, that's when you need to be checking that hedgehog's all right, because a lot of people seem to see a hedgehog and then get quite excited because they obviously don't have a fight or flight response. So if you can walk up to them and they're not going to run away from you, so that's quite exciting. But if you see it in the daytime, that's when you want to be checking that it's okay if it's wobbly. Generally they are nocturnal animals. The only time you'll really see them is if they're moving or nesting in the daytime. That's usually mummy
or they've been disturbed.
Yeah, or they've been disturbed. And again, if you come across one, just get in contact with the British Hedgehog Preservation Society if you came across one. But shall we do some actual setting a tunnel up?
One last thing before, because we need to sort of congratulate ourselves. The opportunities are often rare, but here we can blow our own trumpet. A few years ago when I first came to the university, the banks of this pool behind us, a drainage pool, and this grassy area here were naked. They were boring lawn. And we said, what's the chances of leaving this to grow up and form a semi-natural habitat? Anyway, that has happened, and as you can see, the banks are covered in willow. There's rosebay willow herb down there. There's ragwort, phragmites. I'm watching a few birds buzzing around in there. Look like small warblers in there. See some mullein on the other side. So it's great diversity. And then behind us here, you might see over this side, you've got this patch of rough grassland, which is much more useful than what lies beyond that tedious, dull monoculture of lawn, which, Alex, we've got to do something about.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about that.
We're going to talk about that because I think we need to extend our rough grassland here to occupy at least 50% of this area, offering 50% more value to those hedgehogs, which were skirting around the outside foraging.
They love the outside. They love the outside skirting bits around it. You'll just see in the background you've got starlings as well.
Yeah, trees are doing okay. I mean, the point is there's a pied wag out there, look now. Yeah. But the boring lawn, we need somewhere for the students to sit, obviously.
But then part of it comes back to us.
But they can sit in the long grass, they can hide in there. It's much more sort of, you can do surreptitious things in the long grass. You can do things in long grass that you certainly wouldn't do in short grass. So I think we must advocate for more long grass.
Less bug bites though.
so that students can do secretive things and the inverts can prosper, and along with them things like the hedgehog. So our plan for today, Alex, just before we go?
So we're just going to do a little bit of surveying again. So we're going to get a couple of volunteers to come and paint up the survey tunnels and decide where they're going to go as well. We've got food out. I'm just mixing the charcoal because that's the messiest bit, so I wouldn't want anybody to get that to blow back in their face. And then we've got other events today, such as a mini beast sort of like activity where people will be pond dipping and seeing what they can find in an area in the secret garden that we've got on campus. We're dissecting owl pellets, and we're also meeting the honeybees that we've got on campus as well.
Excellent stuff. Dissecting owl pellets. I love that. Love an owl pellet. If I had my way, I'd get owl pellets wrapped in plastic and put in packets of Kellogg's cornflakes. When I was a kid, they used to make little models of Second World War aircraft which you could snap together whilst you were filling your face full of breakfast cereal. I mean, that was okay. But I've always thought, if you give away free owl pellets in cornflakes...
I'm sure that would give a good variety of reaction, wouldn't it?
You get all those young people would be breaking up owl pellets over the breakfast table. That's the way to go. Anyway, more later.
Thank you. All right. Does anybody want to volunteer to go ahead and do some painting? Yeah. So I need two volunteers. So I think possibly we should get some gloves. Move you along.
Okay.
So we've got to take Chris away now, folks. So you can see the honeybees.
See you later.
It's been so lovely to meet you.
Yeah,
lovely.
Right. Good.
Yeah. Good.
What's this vegetable grade?
So it's let me start again. It's food grade charcoal.
Food grade?
Food grade charcoal. It has to be food grade.
But hold on, so
vegetable.
Wait, when you say food grade, do people eat charcoal?
Yeah, people eat teeth. Charcoal cheese. Yeah. Charcoal cheese. Absolutely fantastic. There you go.
Teeth?
No, to eat. To eat, you can actually. Yeah.
It's used in medicine as well, I think.
Is it?
For flatulence.
Oh, okay. Is it? Flatulence? Is it?
But this as well, if you do purchase one of the kits from the Mammal Society, it does.
Oh, you can buy these like this?
Yeah, you can buy them. You can buy them. You can get them online. If not as well, we do training around.
I have to say, see, I've got drain pipes.
Yeah.
The foxes can't get into the drain pipes. So drain pipes are quite. You can get those.
Yeah.
B&Q, whatever, can't you?
We'll definitely do that.
Yeah, and so you've got to get the food all the way down. I've got a drain pipe and a little stick for pushing the food in.
Yeah.
I recently got a piece of sewer pipe off a skip where somebody had been doing some building.
Something like that, yeah.
I think this probably needs a little bit more charcoal.
Okay.
But
Food grade charcoal.
yeah,
Flatulence.
there you go. There
Life's
you
a
go.
learning
You're learning
experience.
so much today.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Okay,
No
so
idea. But then I haven't had that
you.
much flatulence. If I'm ever afflicted, I know where to go.
There you go. You've got your top tip now.
Top tip. All right, I'm going to leave you to it, Alex.
Brilliant.
Okay.
See you in a bit.
See you later. See you later. Bye.
Thank you. Right, so we've got one here. Can I pass one to you? Please grab a brush.